Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. In this episode, we're going to look at evidence that Brian Laundrie was seen behaving aggressively in a restaurant hours before Gabby disappeared. Now, Nina Angelo and her boyfriend Matthew England, they were at a restaurant called Mary Piglets, a Tex-Mex restaurant in Jackson Hole, between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, when an agitated Laundrie, that's in their words, started arguing with the waitress. Brian acted so antisocially, Gabby went back into the restaurant in Jackson Hole afterwards to apologize on his behalf. A lot of this information comes from Fox News. I'll put a link to that in the description, as well as Nina's statement. According to Fox News, quote, Angelo said it did not appear that Laundrie was on drugs and he was not screaming, but he was behaving aggressively with the restaurant staff, a waitress, a hostess, and the manager, all women. Before we get to the rest of this episode, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started. So all of this took place on the crucial date, August 27th. I had considered that Gabby may have lost her life on the previous day, but this obviously shifts it forward at least 24 hours. And what is also interesting is 4.5 hours after this incident at the restaurant, Red, White, and Bethune passed Gabby's van at the Sped Creek campsite north of the town. Now, going back to the article, quote, Angelo, a photographer, said she couldn't overhear the conversation, but she believed Laundrie was arguing with the staff over the bill or about money. She described his body language as aggressive and said he left and returned about 4 times, end quote. That's pretty incredible. The fact that he left and came back 4 times just shows someone who can get really unhinged over something as small as some kind of, difference, within a restaurant scenario. And here are a couple of screen grabs from the restaurant. You can see what it looks like inside. And the other thing that's quite interesting is that the restaurant have since confirmed that this incident occurred. I kind of had my doubts. I did go to the witnesses' Instagram, but the fact that the restaurant have kind of confirmed this on their official Facebook page, sort of makes it pretty clear. And so this is a quote from the Mary Piglets Mexican Grill. I think this was posted something like half a day ago. Quote, yes, we can confirm Gabby and Brian were in Mary Piglets. We have not deleted any comments or messages on social media. The screenshots you see were direct messages to our account and not public. We have also notified the FBI and they are aware. We are letting them do their jobs and we are respecting Gabby's family and have nothing further to comment, end quote. So this is a little bit interesting how, first of all, it's good that they've confirmed this, but it's quite late in the day as well. So they've come forward pretty late, around about September the 22nd, right? The other thing, and I'm not going to provide the person's name, but someone said, why would your manager tell Fox News she can't recall the incident? And that did actually appear in the original Fox News article, that the manager couldn't recall the incident. It could have been a different manager, but it is quite interesting how the witness saw quite a few members of staff that were engaged in, that were part of this whole altercation. And what I think is the most valuable about this is it starts to show a pattern, a potential pattern of triggered, erratic, aggressive behavior from Brian. And if he was that upset, you kind of get the feeling he was furious on August 27th, then is it possible that things escalated, that it already escalated so much, but did things escalate that afternoon, culminating in Gabby's disappearance? Now, you can head on over to a clip providing Nina's account. It's not the best account I've ever heard. it's a good illustration why emotion is so problematic in true crime. Nina's trying to tell her story. She sort of resets herself quite a few times, but it's so heavy with emotion, very few facts emerge. And while I believe her, she never really says anything about recognizing the faces of the folks they sat next to. It's quite thin on facts. And I think she did say that her boyfriend Matthew had a kind of a photographic memory, and she said she was focused on the couple fighting, but her boyfriend, while her boyfriend was on the phone. But again, it brings us back to Brian's pattern of aggressive, perhaps even unstable behavior does conform to what that first witness, that guy called Christopher, observed, leading to the 911 call and the Moab incident on August 12th. And so the Moab incident preceded the Mary Piglets incident by around about 2 weeks. So just like the open door of the van scenario, I was a little bit skeptical of this because there are going to be a lot of people saying things just sort of hearsay, saying, I saw Gabby Petito in order to get traction. I'm talking about creators, especially desperate creators. And I was concerned that this might possibly be the case of that. It turns out it isn't. And thanks to the Mary Piglets for confirming that, it's now pretty clear that this is something that's valid. It's something that is actionable. It's something that the FBI can also rely on. I'm not going to take it much further than that, except to say I was at a restaurant last night, and I certainly haven't been going out very often. It's probably the first time I went in months, and it wasn't a very good experience in terms of the service. My food came first, and it was a sirloin steak. I asked for it medium rare. It was incredibly rare. It was. I wouldn't say it was raw, but it was incredibly rare. And I would normally, not really be bothered by it because I don't really mind if something is fairly rare. But on this occasion, I just felt it was totally unacceptable. I sort of showed the other people sitting around the table, and then I did what I don't normally do. I sent the food back. There was something else that happened, not as major as that. When the wine was poured, I happened to order the wine, so I tasted the wine. A little bit of the wine was spilled on the wrong side of the glass. The waitress was obviously nervous. She did say it was her first time. Funny enough, she reminded me a lot of Gabby, the Gabby in the Cafe Nolan footage, when Gabby was 20 years old. I actually wanted to ask her age, but I thought it would be a bit inappropriate. She was also blonde, also quite sort of thin looking, just I don't want to say frail, but just very young and slim, but she kind of had that nervousness about her. And she was also quite apologetic. But the difference is, besides that aspect, that the steak wasn't right and the wine was messed a little bit, we all kind of, everyone at the table sort of enjoyed themselves and also got along with her in a way. Like there wasn't a lot of interaction, but we certainly didn't let that ruin the evening kind of thing. And at the end, we actually tipped her quite generously and almost as a way to say, don't feel bad. It's, perhaps you're not very experienced, but don't feel bad. It's not the end of the world kind of thing. It does make one wonder, what was Brian so upset about? And whatever it was, probably it was something that Gabby certainly didn't agree with. Otherwise, Gabby would have gotten in on the argument as well. Gabby would have argued as well. And so I think the bottom line is, in the Moab incident, I kind of got the sense that Brian saved face. Brian may actually have been guilty. And in fact, I think it's clear that he was. He was the aggressor there. And he kind of got away with everything. He sort of weaseled out of it, right? But effectively, he saves face. And you saw him smiling quite a lot. In this situation at the Mary Piglets, I don't get the feeling he saved face. I get the feeling he lost face. And so how would Brian behave when he lost face? And I think he didn't just lose face in the restaurant and in terms of the staff, but possibly with Gabby as well. Perhaps Gabby, after that second incident, felt, okay, things are really out of hand now. You're going to need to sort out your act. And perhaps that made Brian even more aggressive. Someone made a comment that I'm just going to repeat here, which I think is just quite interesting. When Brian hitchhiked, he was apparently hitchhiking in the direction of Jacksonville, which is obviously where this incident happened. Perhaps he didn't know that. Perhaps he wasn't sure of his direction, but when he realized where he was going, perhaps he was aware of this incident and kind of felt like, wow, I don't want to go back there again. I might get into trouble, etc., etc. And that might explain his erratic behavior with Miranda Baker. You might remember her. She spoke about picking up Brian Laundrie. I think she was with a boyfriend, and it was in Wyoming, and it was on August 29th. That sort of fits in with the timeline as well. And the other thing that is quite strange with that is if he was arguing about the bill, then 2 days later he's offering $200 for a 10-mile ride, which she thought was strange. And I think about how erratic and strange that is. It feels like something is going on with this guy's mind. Does he have a few screws loose? Is he emotionally immature? Is he delusional? Well, this is something that is another part of the mystery of this case. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.